Uh, am I audible? Right? Hope I am.
Yes.
Okay. Yeah. Okay.
Yes.
So once you open the IP address of Eve, okay, like login credentials typically default are username, admin, password, Eve, EVE, okay, and okay, caps lock on. So once you open, it shows you something like this, okay, and you can click here to add a new lab. I've done that. I just you just have to give a name, and you can give some other things, and so once you open the new lab, it's an empty workspace like this. So what you can do is you can right click here, uh, click on node, and search for Palo Alto. Okay, their images need to be uploaded. So Eve doesn't supply, just like GNS doesn't supply images. Eve doesn't supply images. You will have to bring them on your own. So I'll help you out with that as well. Okay. So I'll save, and for now we don't need those other machines, but later on what I'm going to do is we are going to have uh, an inside zone, DMZ, and outside. Okay, so in order to connect to outside, basically this is what I'll do. I'll click and select network. Okay, now what I'm doing is I'm bridging it to my physical network actually. Okay, so I'll select management cloud 0 here. Okay, if you select bridge, it just gives you a hub like thing. We don't need that. Okay, when you select uh, and if in case sometimes like right now I'm trying to do right click, it doesn't work, just refresh the page. Sometimes uh, it can get some issues, so just refresh the page because it's everything HTML based, so sometimes it gets into trouble like that. So I'll select management cloud 0. I'll click save. Now it appears like this cloud. Basically, when I connect anything to this cloud, it is basically getting connected to my home network. Okay. Uh, so if you hover over to this or hover over to Palo Alto, you can see this small plug-like icon coming up. So if you click here, what it asks you is which interface you want to connect to this network. I'll say connect to management interface. Okay. Then similarly, I'll take another one. Okay. It's not necessary to do it right now because we are not going to go outside. You can skip doing this, adding this second link. Okay, right now, because for now I'm just trying to actually access the Palo Alto management interface. Okay, and I'll show you something from here as well. Like you can add, if you are low on resources, you can add a VPCS. Uh, Consumes almost no resources. Okay, virtual PC simulator, the same thing that you have even in GNS. Okay, you can add this. Okay, uh, I have sufficient resources because with VPCS I cannot open a browser or do certain other things like host a FTP and something. I'm instead having a Windows machine in this. Okay, and I'll add number of nodes too. And again, you need to have some image. Okay, for that it doesn't work by default. Okay, so this is the topology eventually we'll create. Okay, in which basically uh, like I'll connect one link because see this management link, or it's just think that this is just for device management. It will not allow somebody from uh, our inside of company premises, or somebody hosted within the DMZ server farms to go out. Okay, it's just for the device management. So if somebody wants to go out here, uh, you will need another interface. So I'm just selecting this, bridging or connecting it to outside, because when I'll make policies on URL filtering and all those other things like Facebook app ID, that app ID, this app ID, I'll need the actual internet to work. So I'm bridging it to the physical network so that this Ethernet 1/1 will be the outside of uh, my firewall. Okay, so we'll have to do a lot of things before we go with that. And next you can connect another interface. I'll select like Ethernet 1/2. This we can keep as thinking as inside. Okay, and later on we'll utilize this full topology. I'm not using everything right now. Okay, for now actually I'm just booting this Palo Alto. Okay. I don't need everything else. Okay. Also, one more thing with Eve, I'll tell you, it's not like exactly like GNS. So like whatever you need to plug it on beforehand, and then you can utilize it. Okay. Because if you suppose suppose I don't add these two, okay, and I power on the machine, and while it is powered on, I realize I need to plug in another machine here. If you plug, you'll have to stop the node and start these again. So it's not hot swappable like in case of GNS. So for now, I'm not going to go into using these machines. Okay, but let's start with the Palo Alto basic things. And just think that my laptop is basically on this network. Okay, so I can access this management interface directly from this web browser. Okay, because this is the physical network. And just to give you a better perspective, I can just right? So you can go here, like start all nodes, more actions, or you can power on by triggering them individually, doesn't matter. Uh, I could have kept Win2, Win3 off, but now, right now I'm not going to use them. Okay, doesn't matter whether they are powered on, okay, or off. So like we discussed yesterday, if you remember, that uh, the VM series firewalls on their management interface have work as a DHCP client. So basically on my home network here, I have a Wi-Fi router acting as a DHCP server for everybody, even my laptop. So that same DHCP server is going to give it an IP address once this management interface does a DHCP discovery. Okay. So you can click on this, okay, and this shows like the boot up process of this firewall. Okay, it's going to take some time. So let's just keep it minimized. Okay, it will boot up, and it will, when it does DHCP discover message, it's going to get the one of the IPs on management interface. On all other interface, Ethernet 1/1, 1/2, or 1/3, we'll configure them according to our need. Okay. So let it boot. Okay, I'll keep this minimized. Also, this boot up time will depend on the performance of your laptop. Like if you have SSD and if you have a lot of CPU and RAM, it boots up way much faster. Okay, so like even for me, actually, I have plenty of resources here. Like, see, I have around 32 GB of RAM, and that's how I was saying, like around 16 GB of RAM you need, because uh, when you'll power on two Windows 7 machines with Palo Alto, even this Palo Alto, I'm utilizing a little one version, older version. Like, I'll show you 9 as well, but like right now I'm using an 8.1 because it consumes a little bit lesser RAM. Okay, so now once you replace like these two Windows machines with VPCS, you will require lesser RAM, but there are some practicals which require you to have some GUI interface, having maybe a browser or something. So okay. So let it boot, and in the meantime, let's discuss something from here. Okay, and once we have it booted, we'll see this, like, you know, we'll see a pop-up message, something like this. Okay. If you just Google search, you should be able to find it somewhere, somebody, just like people find movies and songs and everything. Okay. Uh, I'll share one of the links somewhere. I'll just find it for you and share it with you. Okay. They say you can find everything on the internet if you search enough. Some person who is, uh, helping enough. I don't know why people upload everything to the internet. Like, some of the things are relevant, okay, like, but some of the things are like almost irrelevant. But okay, so once we see the IP address, you can try to ping option step, and you can open an HTTPS page to the Palo Alto, okay, which we'll see later. Okay, I'll show you this reset to factory default configuration. Okay. Um, in the meantime, I can show you this because it will be better. It's almost booted up. Soon it's going to get DHCP IP address from DHCP. So if you want to reset the firewall to factory default configuration, uh, sometimes you are decommissioning a firewall and throwing an older firewall away, or also like sometimes people forget passwords. Now there are two things. Okay, one is like if you have forgotten the password, and if you the other is like if you know the password, if you remember the password. So if you know the admin username and password, you can, and suppose you are decommissioning the firewall, throwing it away, and what you can do is you can go to the CLI. Okay, in the CLI you can give this command, request system private data reset. Okay, this will erase all the logs, all the settings, including IP addressing and everything, and obviously there will be loss of connectivity. So make sure you have taken all the precautions before doing that. And this is like if you are, knowing the username password. Now sometimes you don't remember the username password, you want to reset it. When the firewall is booting up from the console, you have to type MAINT. Okay. Now I'll show you this in a virtual firewall. Okay. And then you choose reset to factory default. Actually, when you type MAINT during the boot up, it takes you to a BIOS like option, not exactly BIOS, but uh, it takes you to option where you can choose to reset. Okay. Now I'll just show you this on this other firewall. Okay. See, I'm powering it on. Okay. And you see, I have to press enter and quickly type MAINT to make it go into maintenance mode. Okay. Here, I have to select MAINT mode. Okay. Maintenance mode, PanOS MAINT. This we have done with screenshots here. Do you see it? Like, see, basically what you will do is you'll have your Palo Alto. Okay. And you will have a console connected to it. So you power on. When you power it on, this is for when you don't remember the password. Okay. When you power it on, you quickly type MAINT, this thing from the console. It gives you like 5 seconds or so to do it. So you will have to do it very fast, or else it boots up the OS. So once you do that, what you can do is you can select the maintenance PanOS MAINT. It's something like this written here. It will give you three options, 2 to 3 options. Just like when you boot up Ubuntu or Linux, you get various options, GNU, this, that. So you select one of these and it will boot up. Okay. Now once it boots up, it's going to show you something like this. Maintenance recovery tool mode. And here you can select factory reset. It is going to ask you which OS images you want to use to factory reset. If you have multiple images, then it's going to give you multiple all the images that we have downloaded on the firewall. Okay. If you have one, it is just going to give you that. And then you can click next, enter, and it's going to take some time because it removes that um, all the logs. It does a format of the solid state drive of firewall. So this can take time, like sometimes depending upon how much log and how much data you had in the hard drive of firewall. And then the firewall is removed. So this is the second process if you have forgotten the username password. Okay. Now obviously you'll lose all the configuration and everything. So preferably don't forget the password. This is another firewall I'm showing you this factory reset thing on. Okay. And the one which we had booted here, now you can see here, right? DHCP has allocated 192.168.22 IP address. Okay, fine. Now the default login credentials are admin, username admin, password admin. You can use that to log in here. Sometimes it won't work just after boot up. Have patience, give it some time. Okay. Like just after boot up, if you try to log in with the default credential, if it doesn't work, don't think that there is some other credential. Okay, the same username admin, password admin will be utilized, but it's just that sometimes it takes some time for the firewall to commit that or push that condition in itself, having username password admin. Right? So for now, I'm not going to do much into CLI. Okay, and we'll do SSH to the firewall. But also see, like I had that 192 right here, but now suppose it's gone away. Okay, let me just show you one command. Then what you do is you can do show interface management command here. Okay, if you like, we earlier had it, but now we don't have it here. So If you do show interface management, it shows you that management interface has what? The IP address of 192.168.0.22 and default gateway. So this is all allocated via DHCP. Okay. So this can come in handy if you don't remember the from the first stroke of. Okay. So I'm going into the browser. https://192.168.0.22, and obviously it's going to give you a warning because Palo Alto has most of the devices which give you graphical access, they'll have a self-signed certificate which your computer generally doesn't trust. So click advanced or accept risk to continue and open this. Okay. Actually, this warning comes because the certificate is not, officially trusted from a particular browser trusted CA. So username here will be admin, password admin, same thing here. Okay. Let's exit out of the CA. Okay, it gives you a warning like default your device is configured with default admin credentials changed prior to deployment. Okay, no problem. In 9 PAN-OS 9 Palo Alto Network Operating System, don't call it iOS. Okay, like in PAN-OS 9 it asks you to set username password right away to something else before you begin any configuration. So that's not the case with 8 and all the older versions. Okay. So like this is once you log in, this is the dashboard of your Palo Alto. Okay. And you can customize it like if you want to click and like have this here, maybe you don't like logs here, you want all the logs to be here, you can click and customize your dashboard. These customization of dashboards is per user, like when we'll create new users. So it will not be the case for all the people. Like if I create a new user and customize the dashboard for that user, it will be different for that user. Okay. So now what you see here is that device name, that's kind of the host name, management IP, management mask, default gateway. You see the MAC address. Now, serial number in case of virtual machines sometimes will show unknown in older versions. With 9, they have started giving even the VM machines a serial number. This information like serial number, CPU ID, UUID, this can actually help in identifying a virtual machine. Okay, so this information can or will come in handy if you are trying to get licenses from Palo Alto. Then in that support account, you need to sometimes add this information. Okay, most likely in virtual machines, it's about CPU ID and UUID. They ask you these things. Okay, like currently this firewall is not licensed. We can work out on a lot of things without even license, not a problem. Although they limit you on the session count, like you cannot have more than 1200 sessions. So obviously with 1200 sessions, you won't deploy it in production. But for lab environment, this is sufficient to perform most of the practical. Okay. Also, it gives you the software version, Google Protect Agent, that is in client version. We don't have it right now. Application version and URL filtering and some other stuff. Okay, like how for how long firewall has been up. So here you can see all the currently logged in admins. Okay, I'm the only one, and here you can see all the logs, system logs. Okay. So let's continue a little bit from slides as well. Okay. So I'll show you how to change the IP of management through CLI. Okay. Like let's do that later. Okay. For now, let's concentrate on the GUI. Okay. Like if you go to device here, and there are many options, but in the device setup, okay, and these things we have tried to include in the lab workbook as well as in the notes handout, like like device setup, interfaces management. How do you change IP of management through GUI? Okay, so this is the same thing I'm showing you. Okay, so even if you don't note it down, it's fine. You should be able to find it on the notes. So device setup. If you click on interfaces, okay, here you can set the IP address of the management interface. Okay, like if I click on this on here, what you see here is like by default it's for DHCP client. Let me give it another IP address like 192.168.0 dot whatever 201 202. Okay, something. I'm giving a default gateway. Also see, you can select what kind of things are available using management interface. Like if I try to ping, okay, currently the firewall like 192.168.0.22 is the current IP. We have not yet pushed the configuration. So it responds to ping, right? So uh, you can, if you uncheck this thing, okay, it's not going to respond on the management interface for a ping request. Okay, so by default it was checked. That is why it responded. Okay, I have not yet done okay or anything for this. Also, you see, for management of the firewall, I can SSH to the firewall from here. Okay, I'm just selecting again 0.22. Trust this key, yeah, username admin, password admin, and we are in the firewall here. So it works. Telnet won't work by default, but you can have it working. Preferably don't enable it. So enabling telnet is just a checkbox. Okay. HTTP is like if you want to manage this firewall using HTTP. Okay. And preferably again don't enable, because these two are clear text. So if somebody captures the packet in between, they can look at what you have sent. So and that's why they keep it enabled only for HTTPS and SSH. Okay. So once I have set the IP address, also I can set a permitted list of IP address which can access these services, administrative services, like which can SSH or HTTPS to this firewall. So this is kind of acting as an ACL. Like suppose I know that the network team has the IP from, okay, I'm just saying like suppose this subnet, okay, then I can mention that, or I can also mention individual IP address if I know, suppose this is the IP of the guide managing this device. So this can be acting as a kind of an ACL to allow who can access these administrative services to you. Okay. I'll click OK. And now see, uh, one thing that is different here from Cisco, and it's not just in Palo Alto, but like many other vendors have this. Like in Cisco, when you configure something, okay, I'm not trying to write copy. Definitely happen. Okay, so when you configure something in Cisco, it takes effect immediately, right? Like if I set an IP address on an interface, okay, it takes and bring this like no shot. It comes up automatically, right? Like after this, you don't need to do anything, right? You configure it works. Uh, that's not the case here. Okay, here when you configure something, any change that you make, okay, when you make a change, you need to do commit. Okay, when you commit, that is when the changes take effect. Like currently, although I have changed the IP address for management interface, but still it has an effect. Like I can go and do other things on this firewall, and still it is going to, you know, utilize the same old IP address of 0.22, not utilize the new IP address which we set as 0.201. So what you need to do is you need to commit any configuration that you want to take effect. Here there is a button in the right hand corner of commit. You see this will be colorful only if you have some pending changes to be commit. Like if you this and give this pop-up thing, and now you commit all the changes or commit changes made by this particular user named admin. Now, why is this handy? See, suppose multiple people are accessing this device using the web UI or SSH or whatever. Pankaj is accessing this and I'm also accessing. Now, suppose Pankaj is in midway somewhere of his configuration, maybe he's trying to configure OSPF and he has configured some of the things and still, you know, has not completed yet. If I, if I'm logged in, if Zanshu is logged in and Pankaj both are logged in, Pankaj is just midway and I complete the commit, his half-cooked configuration might get followed, which can create problems, right? So what you do is you basically sometimes avoid selecting commit all changes because this will commit everything, okay, even if some other admin has made some partial changes not yet complete. So preferably most of the admins like to make commit those changes which were made by them, okay, because at least I know like okay, I have completed my configuration, I want only those changes to take effect here. So you can click this, click commit. It's going to take some time. You can close this. No need to keep it open. If you want to have a look at it back, like whether this has happened or not, you can click on this task button here to see whether that task has completed. Like yesterday, you know, even we gave that other firewall another task of downloading that, you know, image. So we had seen that using task. Now, actually, the problem is once you click commit, this commit is uh, going to create a little small problem. See, uh, sometimes students get stuck because of this. Because see, as soon as this commit completes, the IP is going to get changed. So if I try to open any page of Palo Alto, it's not going to get opened properly. Like you know, you see this, it's trying to open, it's trying to fetch, it's trying to load the page, but it's not able to load everything. Okay, there are some it has in cached in the browser. That's why you are able to see these options. But why they are grayed out is because actually it's not able to reach there. So you can look here. Okay, that it's trying to reach to the page, but it's not able to reach because as soon as that configuration committed, the IP changed to 201. Okay. So you'll have to modify that in the browser and then go back again to the firewall.
Hey
Let's
Sudhanshu,
log in again. Yeah.
like in our company, they have given only read access. So like how to provide only read access or write access to particular?
We will look at that. We'll when we create uh, username. More usernames will define the policies for them. Very easy. It's not that difficult. We are going to do that. Maybe today itself we'll do it. I
Okay,
think.
okay.
If not today, tomorrow definitely, because this is something we'll start with the beginning, start and do in the beginning. Okay.
Okay, and one more thing, while going into process, I have seen that each and every location is having two firewalls. One will be in active
Mhm.
state and one will be in a passive state. So, like if anything
All right.
happens to firewall A, it will switch to firewall B. So, like how it is
Mhm.
done?
So actually, for that there is a configuration of HA. We'll look at the HA practical very later in the training. Okay, we'll configure some things here. Okay, so again, we'll see to this particular thing later. Like we have to do this practical. Okay,
Okay, okay. Thank you.
like this is actually one of the topics which we will do almost at the end of the class. Almost like there will be just one or two topics before. For this, you will have to wait patiently.
Okay,
So now, notice one thing here. Since I have committed all the configuration and there is no difference in or there is no pending configuration to be committed, you see this commit button is grayed out, right? It's not colorful like it was previously. So why I'm showing you this by zooming in and showing you particularly these things. See, if you go for the certification exam, in the Palo Alto certification exam, they don't have any way to test your practical knowledge. Like it's not like if you go for the CCNA exam, they give you simulations. Like you have to do stuff on routers, such as in a simulated environment, to prove that you know it practically. Like you will configure an ACL, you will configure some other things like that. But in Palo Alto certification exam, they can't do that. Okay? They don't do that. So I'm just saying, like one way they choose to test you practically, whether you have done it or not, is by, I'm not saying like this is the exact question, but similar on the similar lines. Like suppose I give you, like just think of it as like, suppose I give you a screenshot, okay, of this thing, okay. Suppose like, this is the question, okay. And if somebody asks you from the question like, are there any pending changes left in the firewall? Until or unless you know that, you need to be looking here, right? You will be like, okay, how do I know? Give me the access of the firewall, right? So, when you're doing practicals, pay attention to these small details, because if you don't remember these small details, I'm not saying like this will be exact question, but like there are a lot of questions along these lines. Like sometimes even like when you will first look at them, you'll be like, uh, how do I tell just from the screenshot? But once you pay enough attention to the screenshot, you will be able to figure out something from there. Okay, but only if you have knowledge. Like I'm just saying, like suppose I have to ask you whether the configuration is completed or not. This commit grayed out or colorful is just a small change, and only that person will have noticed it who has worked on time working on this firewall. So okay. So now let's set the host name. Okay, like I'm again into same device setup. So in addition, there are on this gear icon, and here is where you can set the host name and these things. It has a by default host name, which is actually PAVM, that same thing which you see here. This is the
Ganshu,
host
your
name by
voice was
default.
breaking in between.
So what did you listen last? Like, hello,
Uh,
is it on now?
yeah, it's audible now.
Okay. So I'm saying like by default, the Palo Alto VM has a PA-VM as its host name. Okay. Now, although it doesn't show you in the UI configuration option, so you can set a host name, whatever you want to set from here. You can set a domain name, login banner. The just like even in routers we set login banner. Like I'm just saying like for fun's sake, okay? Don't really kill them. Okay. So uh, something like this. Uh, you can set the time zone, locale for language. Okay, most likely English. Also, you can give latitude and longitude information. Like suppose like you know, Pune. Okay. Uh, if you give this coordinates, what's the benefit? Okay. Like I'll copy. Okay. Uh, like depending upon where your firewall is, you can give the latitude longitude information. It's up to you, it's not necessary. What's the benefit of this is I'll tell you. Okay, like uh, you see when we saw some things yesterday, okay, and even day before yesterday, um, a lot of these things are like see autofocus. Okay, now if you see autofocus, you will or a lot of these other things like even panorama. Okay, it's not shown here. Probably I'll just show you here. Okay. No problem. If you go to like monitor, okay, and suppose you want to see the threat map, okay, especially from a panorama. See, imagine this. Suppose you have a lot of firewalls, okay. Suppose you have a lot of firewalls in the uh, across the world. Now, problem is in panorama, you would want to know which firewall is where, right? On a world map, it's easy if you can find it out from on a world map. So under the monitor tab, if I look at the threat map or there are many other places like even traffic map, you see all these information here. Okay. Now, if you don't give the proper latitude and longitude information, it's not going to show you Palo Alto here. Okay. Suppose I don't give it. Okay. Like I'll just click here. I'll just remove this. Okay. Problem is then in the traffic map and lot of places where you will see map showing you different firewalls and stuff, you'll see that in the ocean. So sometimes it can come in handy to understand where which firewall is doing what and these things, especially if you have a lot of firewalls. If you have just one or two firewalls, then it's not a big problem. Okay. So it's good to have this firewalls mentioned with latitude, longitude information. Okay, fine. Also, at a lot of places where you see these maps like thing, like even not in autofocus, but a lot of places you see this. Okay, it's not here. No problem. You get the point, right?
Yes.
Okay. So, like, I'll just continue a little bit from here as well. Like, this is how we change the IP address from the for the management interface, right? If you want to set the IP address from the CLI, okay, it goes something like this. You go to the firewall, okay, and in the firewall, actually, in the CLI, okay, I'll have to open it again. Okay. Now see, let's give you some basics, okay, and this is also mentioned in the notes. Fine. So from slides it will come, okay, like this mode is called operational mode here, okay. What you can do is you can do some show commands here, like I showed you show interface management, okay, which showed us that what is the IP address on management interface, right? So this is operational mode, okay. And if you want to look at further, you can press space bar or enter, enter, enter. It will show you further lines if the output is long. Another thing is like if you type configure here, okay, it takes you to configuration mode, and this symbolizes, this hash symbolizes that we are into configuration mode, okay. Now people coming from Cisco background especially sometimes get you know thrown away with this because they are used to putting show commands in with this hash in the privilege mode. So be careful, okay, don't come with your Cisco knowledge, leave that aside. So this is operational mode. You type in configure command in the operational mode, you move into configuration mode, okay. If you exit out, you move back into operational mode. So you see the command given here, okay, is in the configuration mode, right? So in the configuration mode, you give this command of set device config system IP address. You can tell the IP address, netmask, default gateway. It's up to you if you want to tell. So this is how you do it from GUI, and this is how you do it from CLI. If you are doing it from CLI, again you will need to commit. So the command is simple commit. Fine. So currently this configuration has not taken any effect. Okay, like I'll need to commit. Okay. Okay, now I'll just click on log out here, okay, in the left corner to show you that the banner has taken. So, this is where the banner is shown. Okay, so we have included the screenshots here. You go to management to set host name, these kind of things. Okay. Also, if you and we have included this thing here, so you can follow it along. If I want to, give NTP servers, DNS servers for Palo Alto, you can go to device setup services here. Okay, and again click on this gear icon. So here is where you can provide the DNS servers. If you have something inside of your company, you can mention that. I'm just going to give some public DNS servers. This is important, especially for the firewall to get updates. Okay, if you have not given these DNS servers, it will not be able to resolve this domain, right? So suppose you want this firewall, like yesterday I was, because somebody asked the question, I showed you how to download the that particular, uh, like new software, right? So for those softwares to be downloaded, this domain needs to be resolved properly, and it won't be resolved if you don't have DNS servers. So just take care of that before you try to check for software updates. Also, you can mention NTP server address if you have any. Okay, I'm not going into that. Like you can just mention the IP address. If you have authentication, you can mention the key ID and password and everything here. Okay. So fine. DNS important for updates. Now, like I told you from the CLI, there are two modes, two command modes. One is operation. Operation is used mostly like privilege mode, but not, I won't say completely like privilege mode. The reason for that is because a lot of times uh, there are some show commands which work in configuration mode. So it's a little bit weird here. But operational mode is mostly used to do these show commands, uh, okay, to check configuration. Additionally, use operational mode to perform operations such as restarting, loading a configuration, shutting down. Okay, when you log in, CLI is in operational mode. In the configuration mode, you use it to view some configuration as well as modify. Okay, so we have included like here configure. It takes you to configuration mode. If you type in quit or exit, it takes the same effect. If you want to now see, like I'll just show you here. Suppose I want to ping something, okay, 192.168.0.1, that's my default gateway. Sorry, ping host. You have to give like this. Okay. So you give ping host command. Now this is given in where? In the operational mode, right? And it will continuously try to ping like a Linux box. So you'll have to press Control C to make it stop. So it's pinging, not a problem, right? But the thing is, like sometimes, like if you are in configuration mode and you want to run this command, if you try to do this here, it won't work because this is a operational mode command. Okay, so an operational mode command doesn't work in configuration command. Just like in Cisco, when you run those show commands, and suppose you want to run those show commands in configuration mode, then you cannot run those directly. You have to use do there, right? Similarly, here, if you want to run some uh, what do you call the operational mode command into configuration mode, you have to use the run keyword in front of that. If you use that, then it's going to work. Okay. So basically, your do in Cisco is run in Palo Alto. Okay. In short. Okay. So if you want to enter operational mode command while in configuration mode, use run. Okay. Now, this is the hierarchical structure of CLI. Okay. And suppose I go show network interface Ethernet, like this is where you see Ethernet 1/1, Ethernet 1/2, and if there are IP addresses, it's going to show you that as well. But point is like, if you see, if you notice something here, network interface Ethernet 1/1, then you can make it a particular type interface like vWire. You can link check its link state up, down, link speed. So this is how they have hierarchically made it. Like suppose I want to change something in aggregate Ethernet interfaces. Aggregate Ethernet interfaces are the Ether channel interface. Okay. I hope you guys know what is Ether channel. Right? We bundle a lot of physical interfaces into one logical interface. Or suppose I want to manage something for VLAN interface. Then I'll do show network interface VLAN. It is just going to show me that, not the Ethernet interface. So this is kind of like the structure. Okay. Now, then there is another thing here. Okay, like there is a find command. Okay. Now, sometimes what happens is like if you don't remember the whole command, you can use the find command to display all the commands related to that. Like, see, search. Suppose I do find command. Okay, I'm able to see all the commands that we can give in the operational mode. Okay, even question mark will show you a lot of things. But sometimes suppose like I want to do it with a keyword. Okay, like suppose I remember that there was a command with starting with username. Okay, or somewhere the username was there. Okay, then you can use the find command, mention keyword and say the exact keyword like username. So benefit of that is it is going to search all the commands which have username keyword in it. Like you see all these commands that are shown here are those commands which have this keyword in it. Okay. So this can come in handy if you want to search for a particular command. Okay. Fine. Similarly, like you can have tab to automatic complete the command. Question mark displays list of available commands. Like set device config system DNS setting. You do question mark. These are the two things that you can set. Right. You know this already. I'm not going to spend much time on this. Okay. So question mark gives you a list of available commands. Okay. Now, sometimes what happens is because the world is changing, and now CLI is being used to do a lot of different stuff. Like sometimes people are utilizing it to, push configuration, but not in a format with the format that we generally do. Okay. Now, what happens here is like, suppose if you look at the output format. Okay. Now this is a operational mode command. You can set a CLI configuration output format. Like by default, it is default, but you can set it to JSON, or you can set it to set or XML. Especially, I'll tell you frankly, what happens is like if you try to go into DevNet kind of things, like if you try to develop and automate things for network devices, uh, you will have to, you might not have yet touched on that, but you will have to utilize JSON and XML for formatting of those automated stuff. Now, so what happens is like sometimes, like suppose you have a configuration on a firewall and you want that, okay, I want to copy it, maybe paste it in a lot of other firewalls. Let me just get the output in JSON format so that it's easy for me to automate it. Okay. By maybe utilizing that in some particular code. Then you can change the CLI output format. This is the default output format. Okay. You can change it to JSON or XML. Okay. Now see, by default, okay, if you give this command, like this is just an example, like show device config DNS settings system servers, it shows you the list of servers. Now you cannot utilize or you cannot copy this. Can you copy this and paste it in another firewall? It won't work that way, right? It doesn't give you the command. But if you set the CLI mode to set, the same output would be shown something like this. Okay. Now it's easier to copy these two commands and paste it in whatsoever uh, you know firewall you want, right? So that's why sometimes we want to change the CLI output format. Okay. Like if you want to take a configuration backup by copying everything, preferably set is a better option. Okay. If you want to take a configuration backup, like for saving it in a text file. Now, if same command is used when you modify the code or modify the configuration output format to XML, the same command is going to give you the option and show you it like this. Okay. So, a lot of code require formatting as XML, so you can copy it, and or maybe you're a DevNet guy, you who is a developer of the network. You can, if he asks you like how to set host name, how to set the DNS servers in the Palo Alto, you can give him this code or this particular XML formatted output. Okay, fine. Similarly, there is JSON as well. Okay, I'll not now go into that. Okay, fine. Got it? Any doubts in this? Okay. Now, frankly speaking, this customizing CLI and getting help on CLI, you won't find much questions on Palo Alto certification exam regarding this stuff. Okay, this is just you can say kind of like we are like beyond this. Okay, whatever we discussed, like operational mode, configuration mode, you can get questions like what are the two modes, something like that. But these command, this hierarchical structure, find command, there won't be any questions based on this CLI, okay, on the certification exam. This is just so that you can work in a more organized way when you're doing things on the Palo Alto, okay. And see, I'll show you. if you want to know more about CLI, okay, there is a PanOS CLI admin guide on CLI quick start guide, actually, not admin guide. Okay, so you can, I'll just share this. Okay, and preferably read the documentation all related to PanOS 9. Okay, if you have to select a version somewhere, don't select the old versions because like 8.0 is end of life. Okay, 8.1 is not yet end of life, which we are utilizing. Okay, we are utilizing 8.1, but gradually they are going to go on 9 and 9.1. So preferably read documentation of 9 if you are reading. Okay, I'll just share this in chat. So fine. So if you open that link, okay, preferably I would recommend, like click on this download PDF link. It's a very small book. Okay, I think 70-80 pages. Okay, like I'll just introduce you to this. In free time, like see, not much, 78 pages only. So in free time, you can go through this CLI quick start guide if you want to know more about CLI. Okay. Where's my PDF reader start? Okay. So see, it gives you like get started with CLI. How do you access the CLI? They give you some basic things, but you can guess this from here that since they have just included a CLI documentation of 78 pages, they don't want you to do much on CLI. Okay, they want you to configure most of the things using graphical interface. Okay, so they give you all these options and show you how to set these things. Okay, how to configure these things. You can navigate it from here, like modifying the configuration. Okay. So in free time, just give a reading from here. Also, let me introduce you, since we are on the topic of discussing what documentation you should read. There is a PanOS admin guide. Okay. Like this is something which like any administrator who manages firewall, PanOS related firewall on a day in day out basis should be having. So download this as well. I'll point out certain things from this from time to time. This is a very long book, like 38 MB. Okay. So again, download it for version 9. Just give it some seconds. If you are working on Palo Alto, this is kind of your Bible, Quran, Gita, whatever you want to call it. Okay, you will have to read some parts of it. Don't try to read from start to end. You will most likely lose the patience to read it. Like you see, it's around 1300 pages. I'm not expecting you to finish all this 1300 pages, like, but I'm just giving you like, uh, I'll point out like how to read it. I'll point out at certain places from it. Okay. Um, so see, for now, don't start reading from beginning. Like you can start reading from this part, like firewall administration. Okay. Like we have discussed some things today, like management interface, use the web interface. Okay, some of these things we'll even discuss tomorrow. Okay, and some of these things I'll discuss further, like uh, you see here, how you can open uh, Palo Alto. You can open it using web interface. You can open it using CLI from console or SSH. You can use XML API, REST XML API. You can use Panorama. Four places from where you can configure. We discussed this right yesterday. So it gives you some of the times it gives you these screenshots as well. Some of the times they'll give you like where to go to set what. Like if you want to set a login banner, yeah. Okay. So this is the thing. Like failed login indicator, login date and time. Okay. Login failed login attempts. How you can check that. So like see commit, validate, and preview firewall configuration changes. Okay. Commit all changes, commit changes made by this. See, we discussed this, right? So preferably, if you want to start reading, okay, if you like reading, you can start from this firewall administration part, okay, and I'll now move further to managing configuration backups and saving configuration, and we'll discuss even some other parts, okay. So I have this PanOS admin guide ready with you. Download this CLI Quick Start Guide and PanOS admin guide. Okay. I'll just share the link. I think you can Google search it. It's not that difficult, but this is more important. That's more important than CLI Quick Start Guide. Where's the chat window? Why is it that I see the chat window if I stop the screen share? Okay. Now, sometimes what happens is we want to paste a lot of configuration, or we want to, uh, copy and paste simply. And you might have noticed, if you have done this enough in even Cisco, sometimes some commands get truncated, like they don't get pushed properly to the CLI to the device. Okay, so what you can do is, here they have given you the option to change the CLI mode. Okay, like you can set the CLI mode to scripting. Okay, now don't think that this is for people who want to do scripts. This is for also people who want to paste a lot of configuration on device. Sometimes it's like you copy, you make one firewall with the perfect configuration, and you want to use it as a template and just paste it on a lot of firewalls. You can change the CLI scripting mode on by this command. In scripting mode, you can copy and paste large amount of text directly into the CLI. Okay, so the thing is, like, if you are in scripting mode, the tab command or question mark won't work. Okay, so if your tab or question mark is not working, just check your CLI scripting mode whether it is on or off. Okay, it's very easy to off. You can just swap on with off, and it is going to go back to the regular mode. Okay. So when you are done pasting, just change the CLI scripting mode. Okay. Uh, Also, in when you are doing things on Cisco, okay, uh, sometimes you filter the output, like you give show IP interface brief or show run section OSPF, like that, right? Have you given those commands? Never? Yeah, okay. So just like that, we have these filter command outputs from here as well. Like, suppose, see, if I'm doing show interface management, this shows me the output here, right? But if I want to filter out and I want that firewall should show me only those lines which include some keyword, okay, then you can use a pipe operator here. Okay, it's just above the enter. If you press shift and that key just above the enter, it will, it's called pipe. Okay, so if you do show interface management match IP, see the same output is filtered and you are just shown those lines which have the keyword IP. Okay, now they have given you only two options, match and accept. And just think, like, match is basically just like we have in Cisco include. Okay, like show IP interface brief include up, that will give you only the output of those interfaces which are up. Similarly, if you see here, like there is accept, accept is exclude. Like, I want to see everything except those lines which have the keyword IPv6. Okay, fine. So now the other commands that you can check here are the other commands that you can check here are these commands. Okay, they are all coming from the CLI quick start guide. Okay, this we have included so that you have a a combined place where you can see all of the common commands. Okay, these are some of the common configuration commands, like setting the IP address, setting admin password, DNS, NTP. Okay, and setting the panorama server. Okay, uh, these are some of the verification commands, and these are some of the troubleshooting commands. Okay. Okay. This is right from here, like I'll show you.
Okay, so like they have given you command. If you want to do this is the command. If you want to do that, this is the command. So you can go through these. Okay, and this is not for certification exam. Okay, this is just for your own knowledge. Most likely, you should not be asked much CLI commands. Yeah. Okay. Okay. So check this out now. See, we did a couple of commits, right? And sometimes what happens is like you want to see what was the difference between this configuration and that configuration. And a lot of times uh, you will see the standard process or procedure for changing configuration in a production environment is like, okay, you want to make changes in this router. Step one, take backup of old configuration. Okay, and then step two, uh, or step three and four, five, six, seven, modify the configuration, and it works like this. Why we take this first backup is just in case we mess up these things, we can roll back to this previous thing. Okay, now here, if you want to, if you go to device setup operations, okay, here there is an option. There are these five options. Okay, this revert, save, and load. These three options work within the firewall. Okay, but export, like suppose I want this particular configuration that is currently on this firewall to be exported, I can click export configuration version and select, like, they have saved even the previous with some timestamp. Okay, like if you click on load configuration version, you see we did commit two times till now, right? This was our first commit, this was our second commit. So they have saved them within the firewall. So when you make a commit, firewall basically takes a backup of that configuration. Okay, so if you click on this export configuration version or load configuration version, you can export or load particular configuration. Okay, so suppose I export this configuration version. Now if I click OK, it's going to give me this file to save, which is an XML format, which I can keep a backup for myself. Okay, uh, just like I can export, I can also import. Okay, you can export named. I'll discuss all of these options. Okay, just wait. You can also import. So export is like, if from the admin point of view, whosoever has opened the web UI, he wants to export the configuration. Import is like if you want to push it from that admin PC to the firewall. Okay, but this revert, save, and load works all within the firewall. Okay, so now see, one of the most common things you will notice, or you might have done this as well in production environment, is sometimes when the things get messed up, people open two notepads or configuration checking software and open the configuration versions parallelly, so that they can notice, like, okay, this is something new in this was not here. They check those text files of configuration parallelly.
Okay. Now, here they have included a very nice option. Like this is an option I really like, and I wish every network device should have this. Okay, like if you go to config audit, here you can select from the drop down. Okay, if I click here, these are the two commits that I did. Okay, you can first suppose I want to compare running configuration and candidate configuration. What is that? Okay. When you make suppose changes in the firewall, okay, suppose I change the domain of firewall, all the changes that you make, they become part of candidate configuration. Okay, and if you do commit, then this candidate configuration becomes running configuration. Okay, got it? So candidate configuration is the configuration changes we have made but not yet committed. Okay, running configuration is the configuration which is effective in the firewall currently. Okay, so see, suppose like currently you can notice it from here. These both these configurations should be identical because we don't have any change, right? Commit is grayed out. So if I want to compare the running configuration and candidate configuration, I can click go. It will compare them for me. Okay, most likely it should report like, see, this is what it reports. These are identical, so there's nothing changed. Suppose I want to see that the current running configuration, what is the difference between the current running configuration and maybe the first commit. You can also specify how many lines you want to see. If I say all, now see, this is where it shows you the running configuration and the first commit. And if you scroll, it's going to highlight those parts where there is a change. Like, see, this is what is changed. From the first commit, the host name was PAVM, but now it was this. Okay. Also, you see this banner, login banner, was missing in the first commit. Okay. But in the current running configuration, it's there. So it becomes easy for you to figure out what has changed and what has not changed from this configuration audit option. Do you get it? Clear? Okay. Nice option, huh? Because we need to make these comparisons every now and then. So also you can check between other commit versions. Okay. So yeah. Even for GitHub, this happened because like I was watching a video of Linus Torvald, okay, guy who started with this Linux open source thing. Okay, he said Linux was my first project. Okay, and to support that first project, he made GitHub because again there is a lot of programmers uh, doing a lot of changes, so you need some method to compare. That's why they have included this kind of option even in GitHub. I think Palo Alto got inspired from probably GitHub for this, and a lot of softwares had been in the company environment as well for this configuration auditing. Like you can compare and stuff.
Will this only differentiate between the configuration, or if there will be an difference in the operating system. I mean, if we upgrade our operating system, something like that, it will show the difference of the old and the new upgrade also.
No, operating system won't be shown any difference here. Yeah, because
Okay,
this is just
you
for
mean to
configuration.
okay, you mean to say it's only for the configuration comparison.
Yeah. Within the firewall. Yeah. See, this is configuration. There's, if you see from top to bottom, this is just that all the configurations. There's no show command here, right? Okay. Fine. So let's set an IP address on one of the interfaces. Okay. So suppose I want to configure an IP address on this Ethernet 1/2 here. Okay. So I'll select network Ethernet 1/2 in the interfaces. Okay. Now there are many interface types. Okay. And for now, I'm not going into all these different interface types. We'll discuss that those theory and all the uses and everything. So for now, I'll utilize layer 3 interface. Okay, like I'm making it as a layer 3 interface. I'm not utilizing it as a layer 2 or vWire or anything like that. So layer 3 interface. Now, when you configure an IP address on an interface, you need to make it part of a virtual router. And this virtual router is basically the VRF thing here. Okay. So by default, there is a default virtual router pre-configured into the firewall. So you can utilize that. And you can configure a zone. Okay. Like what is a zone? So it's like, see, somebody, okay, thought that instead of making rules based on subnets or IP addresses, let's make firewall rules based on zones. Okay. The main point of having this is that what they need or what they expected was, like, suppose we have a firewall. Okay. One way of doing configuration could be like we could make rules based on IP addresses, like if this is the source IP or if this is the interface Ethernet 1/1, this is another interface Ethernet 1/2. We want to allow traffic from 1/1 to 1/2 or not allow, we can make rules. Okay. Now, sometimes it could be like maybe, the same policy that I want for Ethernet 1/2, that maybe it's allowed to go to Ethernet 1/2. I want that same policy for maybe Ethernet 1/3. Now, if we had gone on per interface basis, you would have to create them again and again and again and again. So what this thought of was, let's make a label kind of thing called a zone. Okay, like suppose we say that we label this interface as inside zone. Okay, then we can also label this interface also as inside zone if we want the similar kind of policies for both these interfaces. The benefit of that is you make rules based on these zone labels or names. Okay, you don't make policies based on interface levels. Like suppose I have many more interfaces for which I want a similar policy. I can just bring them and make them part of inside zone, and I'll make policies based on inside to DMZ or inside to outside, whatever. These zone labels are going to take care of these things. You don't have to, define these interface based policies anymore. And this is something which a lot of firewalls, almost all the firewalls these days have this concept of zone. Okay, I've not seen any firewall right now which doesn't have this zone concept. So basically, just let's give it as any name for now. Okay, so click on this. Let's give it any name inside. And see, people who are coming from the Cisco background or anything, there is no concept of security level or anything like that. Okay. If you are coming from ASA background, there is no concept of security level. It's not necessary to name it even inside. You can name it under bahar, doesn't matter. Okay. It's not necessary to have inside, outside. Nothing is allowed by default between two zones. Okay. So it doesn't matter whether you name it, and also zone names are case sensitive here. So inside and inside it, these are two separate zones. Okay, if you create a zone named this and that all uppercase inside, these will be different. Okay, so just so that you don't develop this, okay, we'll name it under zone. Okay, under zone, bahar zone, like that. Okay, we'll give it Hindi name so that nobody starts thinking that okay, everything is allowed from inside to outside or like Cisco ASA concept. Okay, so I'll click OK. So we have given it a virtual router. We have given it security zone. I'll select IPv4 and add an IP address there. Okay. Suppose 10.0.1.1/24. Okay. Fine. And I'm not going to go into IPv6 for advanced apps. I'll just click OK. And like that we need to commit this configuration, then only it changes and the changes take effect. Okay. Also, since we are here, you can also view a summary of all the changes that are going to happen. You can preview changes before you commit. If you are making a very serious change, you can even validate whether this commit will be successful properly or not. Okay. So like I'll show you, if you look at preview changes, it shows you a pop-up, and if you see, the page is quite like the page of configuration audit, just a little bit more colorful. You see running configuration and candidate configuration. Okay. So you see this configuration was not there. Which configuration Ethernet 1/2 being a layer 3, and some of these things are default, like we have not done this route advertisement enable no and LLDP enable no, but this is the configuration that is new. Okay, this is the zone that we created. Okay, fine. So you can preview changes. Also, you can validate commit. Validate commit will basically try to check whether this commit will be successful if you go ahead with that or not. Okay, so since it says successful,
and doesn't give you any warning, so you can be more confident in doing this commit. Okay, also it can give you a change summary. Preview changes gives you a very detailed output, whereas change summary just gives you like summary that we have modified Ethernet 1/2, this part. Okay, it was not there. We have modified in the default virtual router because we made Ethernet 1/2 a part of this default virtual router. We have created a zone. Okay, so let's commit. And what I'm going to do is I'll open Win2 here. It's just a Windows machine. I hope you know how to assign IP address to PC. If you don't know, then basically you don't deserve to be here. Okay. Okay. So I'll give 255. Let's do the default gateway. Now see, or I'll show you that later tomorrow, because we don't have much time to go into those things. But okay. Because I'll need to create another interface, or let me configure. Okay, like let's configure Ethernet 1/3 also. Okay, just like we configure Ethernet 1/2. So interface type will be layer 3, virtual router, default virtual router, security zone. Let's bring both of them in the same zone. Okay. IPv4. Let's give it another subnet 10.0.2.1/24. Okay, and just okay. Okay. So let's open Win3 as well. I'll, rename them a little bit and make some text so that you can easily identify it as what IP address by tomorrow. So let's see here to follow. And here I'm assigning 10.0.2.11 support. Default gateway is 10.0.2.1. So see, this is a PC that has got IP of 10.0.2.11. Right? And if I try to ping 10.0.1.11, that is, I'm trying to ping from Win3 to Win2.
it works. Okay. Why? Because both of them are part of the same zone, and by default, within the zone, communication is allowed in Palo Alto. If I suppose try to ping, now see, this is what I wanted to show you. See, I'm able to ping from Win2 to Win3, right? If I try to suppose ping 10.0.2.1, that is the IP address on Ethernet 1/3 interface, which is acting as a default gateway for me. I don't get a response. Okay. So why is it that? By default, on all these in-band interfaces, whether Ethernet 1/2, 1/3, by default on these interfaces, firewall will not respond to ping requests. It responds only to ping requests on management interfaces by default. Okay. If you want, especially because we are in a lab environment and sometimes we might need to check connectivity and everything, then you will have to modify something here. Okay. I'll go back into Ethernet 1/2. Okay, I'm still in the network part. And here in advanced, if you see, there is a management profile. Okay. Now we have not defined anything in that. But if I create a new management profile, suppose, let's give it something new. I can tell firewall what services to respond, like check this ping. So firewall after this is going to respond to ping. You can also have a permitted IP address only to those who you want to ping back. Okay, or ICMP co-replies to be sent back to these. Okay. Now see, this same management profile could be applied to Ethernet 1/3 as well. If you want it to respond on that as well. Okay. You don't need to create it again and again. So let's commit. And if now I try to ping to the firewall interface of Ethernet 1/3, I'll get a reply. See, the configuration is done. Got it? So we were able to ping before creating management profile. We were able to ping from Win2 to Win3 because they were part of the same zone. But we were not able to, Win2 would not have been able to ping Ethernet 1/2 or 1/3, or even Win3 would not have been able to ping 1/3 or 1/3. But now after creating management profile, you are able to ping these interfaces. Okay. I think that's sufficient for today. Okay. And tomorrow we'll look at some of the configuration, backup, restore those options, import, export, and those things. Also, we'll create new separate users. Today we just did everything from the admin. Okay. Okay. You're welcome.
Thanks, Sudhanshu.
Yeah.